I was shocked to see my ex-wife with 4 kids who mirror my past. Can I win them back? I will never forget the day everything fell apart. The day my world shattered into pieces as sharp as glass. It was a blustery Saturday afternoon, and I was strolling through the park, lost in thoughts of a life I once knew. That's when I saw her. Sandra. My heart sank. There she was, laughing under the oak tree, sunlight dancing in her hair, surrounded by 4 kids who looked like mini versions of us. Jenna was the oldest, her wild curls bouncing as she threw her arms around a boy, no older than 6. He had my eyes, the kind that sparkled with mischief. I felt a tremor, a pang of longing. The air thrummed with laughter. The kids mirrored moments of joy I had once known with Sandra. Tiny hands tugging at her skirt while she kneeled, grinning with a fondness that ignited a fire in my chest. I stood still, frozen in time, my breath short and ragged. What had I done? It felt surreal, like a cruel twist of fate. How could I bear it? My mind was racing. I could almost hear my heart thumping in my ears, drowning out the laughter. 4 kids, each one a piece of my past I had thought was lost forever. Then, a chill ran down my spine. One of the younger boys looked straight at me. I swear he blinked like I was a ghost from another life. It haunted me. Who were these kids? Had she moved on that quickly? Or was I the one still grasping at echoes of what we once had? I could feel the shame clawing at my insides. I turned away, my chest tightening. Every step felt heavy, like trudging through mud. What did it mean? Did she want me back? Did we have a second chance? My heart hammered aggressively. A million questions crowded my mind, drowning in uncertainty. There was a haunting silence in the space where hope should have lingered. That gaze from the boy, it was unsettling. Did he know something I didn't? I needed answers. But as tears brimmed in my eyes, I realized I was lost. Alone, in a crowd that had once been mine. My past had come back, each child a reflection of memories that stung. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button. It really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. The days turned into weeks, but the image of that sunlit afternoon haunted me like a ghost. Each morning, I'd wake with an insistent knot in my stomach, a relentless demand for clarity, for connection. I tried to push it away, to focus on my work, but with every mundane email or conference call, I felt the weight of my choices pressing down hard, suffocating. I often found myself back at the park, desperate to catch a glimpse of Sandra and those children. It felt absurd to think of them as mine still, practically strangers. Yet, I couldn't shake the idea that our story hadn't fully unraveled. Each day, I'd arrive earlier, desperate to plant myself on that bench beneath the sprawling oak, trying to blend into the scenery, hoping to pluck enough courage to speak to her, or at least hear her laugh. Then, one afternoon, as I sat lost in thought, a small figure approached. It was the boy with my eyes, the one who had stared at me with that uncanny knowing. He eyed me cautiously, as though gauging whether I was friend or foe. Hi. He chirped, his little voice breaking through my fog. Hey there, I replied, hardly able to muster a smile. What's your name? Danny, he exclaimed, his face lighting up. Who are you? That question hung in the air between us, laden with so much history. I'm someone who used to know your mom. Are you a bad guy? He asked bluntly, innocence laced with suspicion. A laugh escaped me, but it was hollow. No, not a bad guy. Just someone who made mistakes. He furrowed his brow, taking that in as he sat down beside me, swinging his legs. Mom says everyone makes mistakes. But you can try again, right? The words struck me with unexpected force. Could it be that simple? I held my breath, surprised by the wave of emotion that swept over me. Danny shifted, his eyes shining with a curiosity I couldn't ignore. I can help you, he said matter-of-factly. I can tell Mom you came back, and maybe she'll give you a chance. Do you think so? I whispered, choking on the weight of those words, a combination of hope and skepticism that clawed at my insides. I know so. He responded, grinning. I just need to find her. Wait here. Before I could react, He hopped off the bench and bounded across the park, calling out for Sandra. Panic surged within me as I watched him, knowing that a conversation with her would be half-baked without me being prepared. My heart raced, my palms grew clammy. I was just across the path, how could I let this happen? Seconds felt like hours as anxiety twisted in my gut. Just then, I heard her voice, lilting and warm, and every part of my being wanted to run, to disappear. But the way Danny bolted towards her, arms wide with innocent excitement, forced me to stay put. Mom, look who I found. Nothing could prepare me for the sight of Sandra locking eyes with me. The warmth drained from her face, replaced by a blend of shock and confusion. I was a specter from a past she seemingly had tucked away. Danny, honey, come here, she said tentatively, attempting to reel him in. His small hand tugged at her skirt, a persuasive grip of youthful defiance. But Mom, you need to talk to him. Sandra's gaze shifted from her son to me, the disbelief etched across her features. I could sense the wall building up, brick by brick, as the realization washed over her that I hadn't vanished, at least not entirely. Why are you here, Alex? Her voice trembled, a mixture of anger and something else, fear. My voice faltered. What could I possibly convey that would fit this moment? Would words even matter? I just wanted to. Why don't you tell me what you want? She interrupted, an edge creeping into her tone. Do you have any idea what you've walked back into? And there it was, a boiling point, the simmering conflict that had lingered between us for too long now. We were no longer two people holding on to fragments of a shared past. We were an emotional battlefield. Just as another wave of doubt threatened to crash and pull me under, Danny stepped between us, oblivious to the storm swirling around. Mom, I just wanted to help, he said softly, innocence radiating from his tiny frame. But that small moment of hope faded when I caught a glimpse of Sandra's eyes. There was more simmering beneath the surface than I had anticipated. Just then, I realized, as my heart raced in unison with the dawning understanding in my gut, that whatever we were both feeling, it was accompanied by a complexity I hadn't prepared for. Before I could even voice a plea, a figure stepped closer behind Sandra. A tall man, rugged and stoic, who looked every bit as if he belonged to that new life shed forged. The weight of his presence pressed down on my heart like a stone. Who's this? He asked, voice low and steady, cutting like a knife through the thick air. And just like that, the dream of redemption began to feel unbearably distant, swallowed up by a new reality I had never considered. The air seemed to thicken, becoming almost tangible around us as I stared at the newcomer. His presence pulled every piece of my resolve apart, and for a moment, the ground beneath my feet felt unsteady. I had imagined Sandra living her life after I left, but this man's confident stance next to her spoke volumes of a history I'd never been part of moments that had filled spaces I had long since abandoned. That I opened my mouth to speak, but words tangled in my throat. I stuttered, unsure if I was trying to explain myself or dissolve into thin air. Who are you? The man repeated, his voice steady but laced with a sharp edge, as if he sensed that my existence might unravel whatever equilibrium they had created. I couldn't help but feel defensive, yet I understood I was the shadow of a past that might have hurt them both. Alex, I managed, my name slipping from my lips like I was introducing myself for the first time. Am Sandra's ex-husband. That a flicker of something distasteful? Surprise crossed the man's face before he schooled it back into a protective mask. Ex-husband, he echoed, as if testing the word on his tongue. Sandra's eyes darted between us, taut with an anxiety I recognized all too well. What are you doing here, Alex? She projected strength, but I could hear the cracks, the uncertainty beneath the surface. That I came back, I said, my heart pounding in time with my words. My gaze fell to Danny, who watched the exchange with wide eyes, caught between his mother's conflicted past and an unknown present. I just want to talk. I want to explain. To you, to the kids, to everyone. The blades of silence that followed felt excruciating. I could see her wrestling with something vast and complicated that I had inadvertently disrupted. The new man at her side shifted slightly, pulling her a fraction closer to him, asserting a claim I had never wanted to challenge. Kids? He glanced around the park, his voice rising slightly. You mean Danny? You have more? And Kelly, and Ian, and Lily, Danny chimed in, as if each name carried a spark of pride that cut my heart deeper. For kids, the man murmured, his expression darkening, as though he were cataloging threats to their family unit. And you thought it was a good idea just to show up? I had a right. I felt the heat of defensiveness rise in me. Those kids, Danathere. They're mine, too. Listen, he said, his voice low and unyielding. This isn't just about you anymore. They have a life. I know. I paced back and forth, each step throbbing with pent-up history. I'm not here to disrupt it. I just thought what? Sandra interjected, her voice wavering on the edge of frustration. That you could walk back into our lives like nothing has changed? That we could just pick up where we left off? I forced myself to meet her gaze, the anguish within me aching to spill over. I don't expect anything. I just want a chance to be part of their Levesto, understand, to be better than what I was. For a fleeting instant, I could see her wavering, the fire in her eyes beginning to soften. But then the new man stepped forward, his body shielding her. I don't care how you see this, Alex. You left. You chose to walk away, and it was your decision to not be there. You don't get to just come back and expect them to welcome you with open arms. Yes, he spoke. A familiar sensation rose when I thought I had purged. The sting of jealousy, bitter and sharp, curdled inside me, and I felt the grip of regret tighten around my throat. Mom, can I show him my soccer ball? Danny interrupted, his innocent exuberance hitting against the dark tension like a vibrant brushstroke against a somber painting. Maybe later, Sandra replied, though her voice wavered, caught between her son's excitement and the chaos of the moment. Danny, come here. I felt my heart sink. Each suggestion of a future with them slipped further from reach as worry settled in like a fog. Could I even come close to deserving a welcome back? And then an unexpected glimmer of hope sparked within me as I stepped closer to Danny. I'd love to see your soccer ball, I said softly. We can practice. Together, the boy's face lit up, and I couldn't help but smile back, even as the chasm between me and his mother deepened. I was reaching out for something that felt tantalizingly just out of grasp. But that hope was quickly crushed as Sandra's eyes snapped back to mine, fierce like a wildfire. You need to understand, Alex, she warned, her voice now a dagger. This isn't just about you saying you want to try again. You have no idea what impact your return could have. You can't just walk in and turn everything upside down. She turned to Danny, kneeling down so she could look him in the eye. Honey, why don't you show him the ball, but stay close? We need to talk, okay? The sincere look she offered her son caused my heart to ache. The tenderness of that moment was almost unbearable. The man stood firm behind her, arms crossed, an unwavering guardian to her sanctuary. Danny ran off towards the soccer field. I felt weightlessness mixed with despair. There was so much to unpack, years of choices and consequences that lingered thick in the air. Suddenly, I heard footsteps crunching in the gravel behind me. Sandra's stoic demeanor drew me back into the moment. You need to leave, she said, the ice in her tone sharpening. The moment felt like an impending storm. You don't belong here. You made your choice. I wish I could go back, I found myself saying in a whisper, desperate and longing. I never meant Toy don't care, she snapped, her voice shaking. You did. And now look where we are. The weight of her words sank in. I had done this. I had pushed her away. I had chosen my own path. And just as I thought it couldn't get worse, the man beside her placed a hand on her shoulder, his voice low but deadly serious. Keep that in mind, Alex. You don't get to disrupt their lives again. Beyond the thudding of my heart, I felt the abyss of loss pulling me under. As I watched the fragments of my second chance shatter, I realized I was just a stranger again, no longer a father, but a memory from a time woven into the fabric of their pain. But then, just when I thought the universe had played its last cruel trick, I heard a gasping cry from Danny across the field. My breath caught as the ball, his beloved soccer ball, rolled away from him, bouncing towards a shadowy figure sitting atop a hill, a figure cloaked in a coat too familiar. Could it be that the past never really stays buried? My heart raced with a foreboding sense of dread. What if that figure had stories of their own? What if it was someone I never wanted to encounter again? And just as hope flickered with uncertainty, I knew, in that moment, the next unraveling was about to begin. The sky hung heavy above us, a sulky blanket of gray clouds pressing down as if it too sensed the turmoil swirling within me. I wanted to run after Danny, to assure him everything was fine. But the choking doubt where hope had briefly flickered held me in place, my mind spinning with the implications of what I'd just seen. Alex, Sandra's voice broke into my thoughts, sharp as glass. What are you staring at? I tore my gaze from the hill, a flood of realization crashing over me. It's just Danny, I stammered, feeling a layer of panic coat my words. I need to stop, she demanded, cutting me off. You need to focus on what's happening here, not what might be over there. Her intensity felt like a force field, keeping me tethered to this moment, but the far-off figure had siphoned away the last of my confidence. My mouth felt dry as I searched her eyes for understanding, for some flicker of the closeness we once shared, but instead, I saw only weariness, a fatigue drawn from years of trying to move forward. The shadow passed over her expression as she caught sight of wherever I had just been looking, and in that instant, I realized she had missed something, too. What did you see? Her voice dropped, suddenly delicate. Nothing, just I hesitated, caught up in a whirlwind of choices. I thought I saw someone familiar. She frowned. Confusion etched into her features for just a moment before her protective instinct unfurled. Let's focus on our children, okay? Right now, they need us. Her words, though resolute, contained an undertone of uncertainty, a sound I hadn't heard in years but knew all too well. Nodding, I turned my attention to the field, where Danny had already spotted the ball. He was unbothered by the tension around us, oblivious to what was spiraling in the hearts of the adults. His laughter rang like bells, each chime reminding me just how far I had ventured into a silent abyss of my own making. Little did he know, after years away, I had never truly left him behind. He had always been nestled deeply in my heart. Can we really make this work? I asked quietly, more to myself than to Sandra. Make what work? She replied briskly. You think you can just return and create this ideal family? Life doesn't work like that, Alex. The hurt behind her words was palpable, each accusation hitting home. We aren't who we used to be. I don't want things to go back to how they were. The trembling admission escaped my lips. I just want to be part of their lives, to help them grow. I want to not just as their father, but as someone they can rely on this time. The flicker of vulnerability in her eyes hinted at the shift beneath her armor. You can't expect everything to just be okay. You hurt us. You left. I know, I whispered, feeling the chains of guilt wrap tighter around me. But every day I regret that decision. Seeing Danny today, it made me realize that I have a chance. And if I mess it up again, you will. She interjected, the ache in her tone proving she, too, bore broken pieces of our past. It's easy to say you want in, but to stay committed, that's a different challenge. That I didn't know how to respond. I could sense the push and pull of our conversation dragging out as the clouds thickened overhead. Somewhere deep down, I felt it too, a reluctance to let go of the past, to keep clinging to the possibility of a future repaired. But the weight of her glare struck back, a reminder that the path to redemption wasn't a straight one. Just as the silence enveloped us, Danny called out again, his voice filled with pure delight. Look, Mom, I got the ball. His little body danced in celebration, and joy radiated from him like sunlight breaking through the storm clouds. A part of me wanted to run over and gather him in my arms, to feel that connection. But as I glanced at Sandra, cradling her own hopes and fears beneath her protective shell, I knew I needed to tread carefully. Can we take turns watching the kids? I asked, attempting to bridge the space between us, not just for my sake, but for Danny's as well. Maybe we can start somewhere, anywhere, on common ground. Sandra's expression softened slightly, like a leaf catching a gentle breeze. It'll take time, Alex. We need to talk about it, things we never addressed. You have to understand what you're asking for. I promise I'll listen, I said earnestly. Everything I did, it's always haunted me, but I'll do anything to make it right. For them. For you. The corners of her mouth twitched upwards. For just a moment, that spark of the woman I once loved flickered before me. But before I could grasp it, a loud gasp erupted from the field once more, pulling my attention away. Danny had stopped playing, staring wide-eyed towards the hill where a woman now stood, her features blurred in the haze of disbelief. As she drew closer, every fiber of my being froze. She carried an unmistakable presence, one I never expected to see again. Maya? I breathed, swallowed by a tidal wave of memories that threatened to drown me. Sandra's expression shifted, suspicion coursing through her. What's going on? Who is that? Someone I thought I'd never see again. My stomach churned as I wrestled with the realization that this chaotic storm held the power to tear apart any chances I hadn't yet seized. And in that heartbeat, while the world spun in a frenzied dance around us, I understood just when I thought I had glimpsed a way back into my family's fold. This could be the moment that broke everything apart. The air thickened with confusion and disbelief, as if the universe conspired to unravel the fragile threads that bound the last remnants of my hope. With every step Maya took toward us, my heart drummed a frantic rhythm, each beat a reminder of how unresolved our history remained. Danny's laughter faded, leaving an unsettling silence hanging amongst us, abruptly interrupted by the sound of sandals scuffing against the grass. "Maya," I said again, my voice barely a whisper, thick with the weight of 1,000 memories, moments woven with laughter, tears, and a love I once thought unbreakable. She had been everything to me, my anchor, my best friend. But the years had folded over us in such a way that I couldn't tell where she ended and I began. She looked older, her hair pulled back in a way that revealed fine lines, shadows etched on her face that spoke of struggles I was not privy to. But her eyes, they were the same, deep pools of warmth that, despite their distance, held stories of joy and pain, just like my own. "Alex?" Her voice cracked, suspended between disbelief and curiosity. You're back?" In that single moment, I could feel Sandra's eyes burning into me, a mix of anger and betrayal igniting her frustration. "So, you didn't just run away from us, did you? You've left a whole life behind," she snapped, her anger palpable, the cracks in her composure spilling open. "Maya, what are you doing here?" I asked, trying to maintain my composure, though my heart raced as clarity slipped further from my grasp. "You weren't supposed to be. I thought. I'm sorry. I didn't think you'd be here." Her voice faltered, catching each word with hesitation. "The festival, I brought the kids to see the fireworks." That's when it hit me. Small figures had lined up behind her, tiny bodies clinging to her frame like ivy. Each one looked vaguely familiar, threads of my past winding through their features, the perfect combination of Maya and me. A child with a head full of wild curls, another with wide, curious eyes, a third clutching a toy just as Danny had done, and the smallest, a delicate girl whose resemblance to a younger Maya sent shockwaves through my heart. "Oh my God," I breathed, my hands trembling as I took a half-step back. "You have kids?" The dread of what I thought I might have lost wrapped around my chest like a vice. "4," Maya said, her voice steadying but still laced with emotion. "You have a lot to catch up on." Danny broke the tension, running toward us with the ball still in his grasp, oblivious to the undertow of anxiety swirling around us. "Mom, who's she?" he asked, eyes wide with excitement and wonder. "Maya," I managed to explain, feeling Sandra's presence shift just slightly. Though we both remained silent, the unspoken tension bracketed us together, a barrier we could not breach. She's an old friend. Are they my cousins?" Danny asked, bouncing on his heels, innocence brightening the atmosphere even as I sensed the tightening knot of conflict in Sandra. "No," I said quickly, dread pooling in the pit of my stomach. There's something else." Just as I uttered the words, I was struck by the profound reality of my choices, every decision echoing across the fabric of time, weaving in and out like the threads of these children's lives. Maya knelt down, eyes sparkling as she looked at my son. "Yes, buddy. A cousin of sorts. You could say our lives, they've intertwined." "Maya, wait," I interrupted, panic rising as I turned my gaze on her. "We haven't discussed. I'm not here to complicate anything," she said, her voice firm yet soft, almost motherly. "I just thought it was time the kids had the chance to know who their father really is, not just who the guy in an old photograph is." "Wait, what?" Sandra's voice was ice, an edge I had never heard before aimed at Maya. "Does this mean they know about him? About this life? About everything?" I turned to face Sandra, conflict swirling anew as the weight of things unsaid pressed down on me. "It's not what you think," I started, but my words faltered as Maya's eyes locked with mine. There was pleading, a sense of urgency in them that reminded me of what I had once felt. Danny, ever the bridge builder, reached out, tugging at my hand. "Can we all play together? Like a big family?" In the echoes of his innocent question, I felt the world tilting precariously, the fabric of my life unraveling further even as the hearts of my children, future memories and silent wishes for belonging, wove tighter together. That I need to talk to you, I said to Maya, the air charged with uncertainty. This isn't the right place, but as I spoke, the ground beneath us seemed to open, revealing cracks where the past and future intersected. And just like that, amidst the tense atmosphere and the children's laughter, everything hung precariously in the balance. My hopes, my fears, and my place within this newfound world of intertwined futures. I turned toward Sandra. I saw her expression contorting in a way that suggested she had anticipated this exact moment, a harbinger of the storm brewing within her. How are you going to fix this? She whispered, though it felt less like an inquiry and more like a challenge. And at that moment, lost in the tangled web of my choices, the reality of the life I had neglected, it struck me, seemingly from nowhere. Could I, against all odds, forge a path toward redemption when the stakes were set so high? But before I could find my footing and sketch the outline of an answer, my phone buzzed sharply in my pocket, an unwelcome reminder of the world beyond these tangled moments. I fumbled for it, my stomach dropping as I glanced at the screen. An unknown number. Just as my thumb hovered over the answer button, swift regret washing over me, Maya suddenly stepped closer, intent written across her brow. Let's hear it, she urged, echoing the silent plea of 4 eager little faces watching us unfold. And in that instant, with every heartbeat racing toward uncertainty, I realized I might not inhabit the choices alone. This family, these children, would create a future together. But whether we would emerge stronger or continue to fracture held the weight of my next decision, frozen in time amongst the echoes of our shared legacy. The buzzing of my phone pulled my thoughts into a frenzy, the vibrancy of Maya's presence becoming a backdrop to the pulse of anxiety roaring within me. Just a week ago, my life had been defined by routine, a simple existence cloaked in the monotony of work and shallow relationships, the kind of life where I had managed to forget, or so I told myself, about the loves that were left behind. But here we were, tangled in the complexities of a past that never truly faded, as familiar as the scent of the earth after a rain. Answer it, Sandra urged, her voice low, weighed down with a mix of hurt and impatience. I glanced at her, and then back to Maya, whose brow creased with the depth of unspoken questions. The children, innocent bystanders in the rift between our lives, stood quietly, their eyes darting between the adults as if sensing the impending storm. With a shaky breath, I pressed the green button. Hello? There was a beat of silence on the other end before a voice I hadn't heard in years whispered through the linear voice that sent shivers down my spine. Alex? It's Karen. My heart lurched. The name held immense weight, a name from another time filled with the shattering of dreams and hopes long buried. Karen, what do you want? I found myself asking, a mixture of dread and worry surging in my veins. I just heard about Maya being back in town, she continued, oblivious to the turmoil her words had sparked. I thought you should know. The kids are asking a lot of questions. They need you, Alex. The world outside faded, and my focus narrowed on her voice as memories flooded back, holidays spent in laughter, our dreams once entwined in the hope of a shared future. A past that had crumbled the moment everything fell apart. The phone calls, the shouting, the crumpled hopes dashed against the walls of stubbornness. I can't do this right now, I murmured, my voice barely above a whisper. The gravity of her words settled in, and I felt the dawning realization that Karen was reaching out from a place of desperation, perhaps not just for the children, but also for herself. Just think about it. The kids don't understand why you're not around anymore. They want to know why their dad is only a story, she pressed gently, a thread of conviction connecting us across the distance of years. I glanced up, the weight of her words echoing through the tension-laden air. Maya stood close by, observant, her eyes a mix of curiosity and anxiety as though she could sense the shift in my thoughts. Are you serious? I replied, my voice shaking as I met her gaze. You know this isn't just about me. You know I do, she interrupted, her tone almost protective now. But the truth is, we all have to figure out how to pick up the pieces. It's not too late to be there for them. A low growl of frustration escaped me. I felt like a marionette caught in a tangled mess of strings, each one tied to a different future. Because how could I balance the sudden weight of all these expectations? Months ago, I had longed for a sense of belonging. Now, I stood on the precipice of a new reality, one that bore the weight of wounds I had never healed. Alex? Maya's voice broke in, softening under the burden of my silence. You don't have to do anything now if you don't want to. She paused, searching my face for understanding. I didn't come here to disrupt your life. I wanted you to know the kids exist, and that they deserve to know you. A part of me wanted to yell at her for dropping this bombshell in my life without warning. Another part ached longing for the connection, for the family that had slipped through my fingers. The children shifted restlessly behind Maya, sensing the conflict but unaware of the depths beneath the surface. Alex, you can be a part of their lives, Karen urged again from the phone, the quiet persistence urging me toward a decision I wasn't prepared to make. Every maternal instinct in me screamed to protect them, to wrap them in the love I hadn't seen blooming over the years. But would it be enough? I took a deep breath, glancing at Sandra, who stood rigid, her arms crossed, her perception as palpable as my own unsettled heart. I need time, I said finally, feeling the weight of that decision settle heavily upon my shoulders. Just need time to figure this out. I ended the call, the air thick with revelation. Maya took a step forward, her expression flickering through a range of emotions, from hope to trepidation. You really want to be part of their lives, don't you? She asked, her voice low and steady. I don't know, I replied, the truth lying uncomfortably between us. This wasn't how it was supposed to be. None of this was part of the plan. Danny, oblivious to the turmoil beneath us, tugged at my hand again. Can we play now? I want to see you kick the ball. He grinned up at me, laughter bursting from those small lips. And for a fleeting moment, I was reminded of the child I once was, filled with joy over the simplest things. As chaos swirled like a tempest, a flicker of determination ignited within me. Maybe there was hope buried even in these turbulent waters. Still, threading that fine line between the past I had left behind and a path I had not yet embarked upon felt perilous. But with every challenge, there arose a chance to perhaps rewrite the narrative that had wrapped around my life like a stormy shroud. Just as I opened my mouth to respond to the hopeful plea in Danny's eyes, my phone buzzed again, a second intrusion that caught me off guard. A single message screen blinked, and with dread, I glanced down to see a notification from an unknown number, the words chilling me to my core. I know about the kids, and I need to talk. In that moment, reality shifted once more. The ground beneath my feet felt like quicksand, the camaraderie of the children temporarily dimmed, and an unsettling darkness loomed, waiting to be unraveled. The ties of the past twisted tighter, and I could sense the impending storms brewing, where secrets and revelations were ready to erupt. I had been seeking connection, a family, but now I found myself caught in a web of entangled truths, with everything hanging on the precipice of a revelation I wasn't ready to face. The message sat stagnant on my phone, a beacon of uncertainty in a world already teetering on the edge of chaos. My heart raced, fingers hesitating above the screen as the pulse of anxiety returned, sharper than before. The children around me, caught in their innocent excitement, unknowingly highlighted my turmoil, their laughter ringing like bells yet drowning in a sea of unanswered questions. Need a minute, I stammered, adrenaline coursing through me. The warm afternoon sun cut starkly against the chill that had settled into my bones since Karen's call. I walked a few paces away, hoping to gather my scattered thoughts, the laughter of the kids gradually fading behind me. Maya's footsteps followed closely. What's wrong, Alex? Her voice, bathed in concern, drew me back momentarily from my spiraling thoughts. That I don't know. It's just this message. It feels like everything is collapsing around me. I put my hands over my face, feeling the heat of impending tears, the emotional weight pushing down until I thought I might crumble under it. I was just starting to believe I could somehow be a part of their lives, and now there's another layer, right? She interrupted gently, her voice dripping with empathy. But that doesn't change who you are, or who they may grow to be with you in their lives. Let's not forget that this offers you a chance. A shot at something worth fighting for. I frowned, my mind racing. But what if this person knows more? What if they threaten everything I wish I could build? What if they tell the kids something that reshapes their entire view of me? I felt the familiar gnawing fear returning, the fear of failing them, of being the father they didn't deserve. Maya laid a reassuring hand on my shoulder. Whoever they are, don't let them become another ghost of your past. You're building something anew, Alex. Whatever it means to be a father, you still get to define that. Her faith in me felt like sunlight breaking through a dense fog, but shadows still tugged at the corners of my mind, reminding me of the precariousness of this situation. I had just begun to step into a role that felt magnificent and terrifying. Now, a potential threat loomed ominously, heavy in the silence. Before I could respond, a cool breeze whipped through, and without thinking, I turned towards the children. Danny was trying to coax Emma into playing a game of tag. Her laughter bubbled up as she darted back and forth, while tiny Mia clung to a bright yellow flower, nodded in some innocent exploration, blissfully unaware of the emotional battleground flaring around us. The sight pulled at my heartstrings, igniting a surge within me, a reminder of how essential it was to maneuver through these dark waters for them. For the future, I dared to dream. But how could I ensure that future when the specter of the past haunted every decision? Just as I summoned the courage to conjure a plan, a flutter of uncertainty gripped my chest. I turned back toward Maya, confidence wavering. You just don't understand, I began, only to pause when my phone vibrated once more. The urgency of it felt more pronounced this time, like a storm on the horizon ready to sweep me away. Hello? I answered, ready to confront whatever news awaited me. Alex. It's Karen again, she said, and the tension in my brow simmered as I clenched my jaw. You need to listen closely. The message you received, it's not what it seems. You need to protect the kids. There's more to this story. Every word hung in the air, a dagger of dread. What do you mean? Who sent the message? Listen, please. You have to trust me. I can't go into details right now, but there are people family who've been keeping tabs on us. They have reasons for wanting to reach out. You must be careful, especially if you decide to step back into their lives. My thoughts raced as Karen's warnings seeped into my consciousness, intertwining with the new reality I yearned to embrace. I could feel my heart drop with the weight of her words. What shadowy figures lurked behind my long-forgotten past? How could I ever expose the children to that world when all I filtered through my thoughts was creating safety and belonging? Just promise you'll think about what I'm saying, Karen pleaded. You can't just ignore this. That I hung up, phone in hand, my heart lodged within an amalgamation of confusion and fear. The joy of the children playing swiftly shifted to an illusion of safety, now disrupted by the ominous cloud of my past. I wanted to express that joy to them, to lean into their laughter, yet the burdens of potential revelations pulled me further down, inch by agonizing inch. Maya stepped closer, her expression a puzzle of concern as her eyes searched mine. What did she say? I looked about helplessly at the chaos of happiness that surrounded us, now marred by shadows of potential chaos igniting in the distance. Someone knows. I can't just ignore this, Maya. There are threats, things I didn't foresee, and I have to think about the kids' safety. Then you need to stop running, she urged softly, her eyes steady and unwavering. What do you want, Alex? Only you can decide how to step forward. You can't let the past control your future. That I gazed at the children, feeling moments of joy juxtaposed against the ominous gravity of uncertainty. Just as I began to articulate a response, the shrill ring of my phone sounded again, drawing me from my thoughts. The screen flashed the same unknown number, and my stomach sank. Not again, I whispered as I debated whether to answer. The weight of impending turmoil loomed ever nearer, a storm brewing as the first drops of rain fell. Everything was beginning to unravel. The fragile happiness I harbored, the laughter that echoed like harmonious chimes. A new revelation loomed, carrying the promise of disruption, and the air thickened with the myriad of possibilities. Alex? Maya's voice broke through my haze as the weight of my decisions settled once more. The oppressive anxiety washed over me again, but it was the shining faces of the children that pulled me forth, their innocence ringing louder than the chaos of the past. Could I really confront such uncertainty? Or would I falter, like I always had, before a tempest that threatened to consume me whole? As I stepped forward, ready to answer the call with trembling hands, I knew one thing. Destiny had chosen this moment to confront me. The path ahead lay tangled, uncharted, filled with the promise of blessings but weighed down by shadows, and my heart raced because there was no turning back now. With a shaky breath, I tapped the screen to answer, the weight of expectation barely contained within me. "Hello?" I said, my voice trembling slightly, reflecting the storm brewing in my chest. "Alex, it's Sophie," came the voice on the other end, laced with an urgency that forced me to sit down on the nearest park bench. "We need to talk. There's something you should know about Rebecca." "Rebecca?" The name escaped my lips like a whisper. My ex-wife, the architect of my memories, both tender and painful, was now tangled in this chaotic web I had painstakingly begun to unravel. "What about her?" "I didn't want to reach out, but the kids, they deserve to know," she said, her tone shifting as emotions swirled beneath her words. "There's a situation, and Rebecca has been holding back important information that you need to hear." The mention of my children, a swell of protective instinct washed over me, fueling a fire I thought had long been extinguished. "What kind of situation?" "Just meet me," she insisted, her voice imploring. "Please, Alex. No one is safe until we sort this out. You don't understand how complicated this all is. They need you, and Rebecca won't say anything unless you're here." The implication of danger sunk deep, filling me with dread. I looked up to find Danny tackling Emma to the ground in a bout of giggles, while Mia chewed on the edges of a flower petal, oblivious. "You can't just drop this on me, Sophie. What's going on?" "Meet me at the old park, the one near her house." "We can't discuss this here," she urged. "They'll be waiting for you." "Please, I need you to understand." I hung up the phone, a hollow space digging deep within my chest as I fought against the rising tide of uncertainty. The implications swirled around me, unraveling in the breeze like the fallen leaves dancing through the air. How was I supposed to process this sudden rush of panic? I wanted to shield my children from whatever shadow loomed just out of reach, but now my very connection to them was at stake. "Alex?" Maya's voice pierced through the chaos, grounding me to the moment. "You look pale. What happened?" "They want me to meet them. Sophie says there's something about Rebecca I need to hear. I can't put it off." My words stumbled from me, revealing my inner turmoil, a fervent mix of fear and determination. "Do you trust her?" Maya asked, her brow knitted with concern. "It doesn't matter. I have to know what's happening. If there's a threat, it could impact the kids, and I can't stand idly by." I stood abruptly, my heart pounding as my fight-or-flight instincts kicked in. It felt so immediate, the need to protect them. "I have to go. This might be bigger than I thought. There's a chance you won't get the answers you want." "Alex," Maya cautioned, her eyes searching mine with concern. "Don't let yourself get pulled into old conflicts without thinking." I nodded absent-mindedly, the impulse to act overriding her wisdom. There had been too many instances of someone else standing in my way, dictating what I could or could not do in a world where the stakes were too high. "I have to do this, Maya. For them." I walked away from her, the sound of laughter now a distant melody behind me. I felt the tug of fear entwining with an unfamiliar hope, an urgent need to confront my past for the sake of our future. The park Sophie mentioned was 10 minutes away, and with every step I took, the anticipation coiled tighter within me, a tension that felt simultaneously like dread and resolve. I arrived and saw Sophie sitting on a weathered bench, her expression steely, yet somehow softened by the weight of our shared history. She looked weary, worn down by the burden of untold stories. I approached cautiously, the air thick with memories of the times we spent together, both bitter and sweet. "Thanks for coming," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. The glimmer of compassion in her eyes struck me as surreal. "Sophie, what's going on?" I demanded, urgency coiling in my stomach. "What aren't you telling me about Rebecca?" "It's not just Rebecca, it's the kids too," she said slowly, stealing a glance toward the park playground, where laughter bounced like fragile glass in the wind. "Things in the past were never as simple as we thought. She's been involved in things that might endanger them. We have a responsibility to protect them, and we might need to tackle these ghosts together." The implications washed over me, burdening my heart with an amalgamation of fears. "What kind of things?" My voice emerged barely above a whisper, but inside, I wrestled with nostalgia mingling with dread. As Sophie hesitated, I felt my heart race, an impending fear winding its way around me. Who were we now? What shadowy past connected us that still endured, threatening to creep into the children's world? "The reason she hasn't told you, it's complicated," Sophie finally said, her eyes flickering with the weight of unsaid words. But the truth is, before she could finish, The shrill sound of a siren echoed through the park, rising ominously in the distance. My heartbeat quickened as Sophie suddenly straightened, her expression shifting from apprehension into something that resembled urgency. "We have to get out of here," she said, her voice cracking with fear. Now, my stomach dropped, confusion mixing with shock as I took a step back. "What is happening? What do you know?" The realization hit me like a punch to the gut. I was standing on the precipice of an unknown chaos, fingers gripping tighter around the fragile remnants of my past and the bonds I fought so hard to restore. But before the words could spill from my mouth, the sound of hurried footsteps echoed behind us. I caught a flash of movement, a figure rounding the corner of the park, their intentions unclear yet imposing. I could feel the world slip away beneath me, uncertainty gnawing at the edges of my resolve as I braced for whatever storm was barreling toward me, the truth at the forefront of a gathering tempest. In the swirling chaos of impending revelation, I wondered if I had truly been prepared for the lengths I would go to protect my children, or if guiding them back to safety would come at a greater cost than I had ever anticipated. As the hurried footsteps grew closer, my eyes darted to where Sophie had been standing, the fear etched on her features matching the tempest brewing in my chest. My heart pounded with each beat, turning my thoughts into a swirling haze. Could my determination to protect my children truly withstand whatever lay ahead? "Alex, we need to move," Sophie urged, her voice cutting through my paralysis. Without thinking, I grabbed her hand, and we darted behind a cluster of trees that lined the edge of the park. My mind raced as if I were a chess piece caught in a game I didn't fully understand. "What's going on? Who's coming after us?" My voice was a harsh whisper, desperation clawing at my throat. Sophie bit her lip, her eyes flickering with fear. I didn't want to say anything until I was sure, but someone's been watching Rebecca. I think they're trying to get to her through the kids. You saw the police. They're patrolling heavily because they suspect something is very wrong. That IT felt like the ground beneath us had cracked open, unleashing paranoia and dread. The weight of her words settled heavily on my shoulders. Rebecca had always been the keeper of secrets. It didn't take much to imagine how much she might have hidden from me, and now the past was resurfacing with a vengeance. "I can't let anything happen to them," I exclaimed in a harsh whisper, clenching my fists. "I won't lose them again, Sophie." Sophie shook her head, an unsteady breath leaving her lips. "And that's why we need to figure this out together. You need to know what's going on before you confront Rebecca or anyone else for that matter." "What do you mean? What does she have to do with any of this?" I was bombarded by a surge of conflicting emotions, uncertainty blending seamlessly with fierce resolve. I wanted answers, but I feared where those answers might lead. As I peered around the trunks of the trees, my heartbeat echoed in my ears, drowning out the muffled voices and laughter of children playing nearby. The park felt like a sanctuary turned prison, an oasis teeming with beautiful moments that contrasted gruesomely against the lurking shadows I now sensed. "We need to get somewhere private," Sophie continued, dragging me further away from the exposed area. "If you're going to confront Rebecca, I want to make sure you're really prepared for the truth." Just then, I caught sight of a figure across the park, the unmistakable silhouette of Rebecca moving toward the playground. I felt a sudden jolt. There was a forceful mixture of longing and anxiety swelling in my chest. She looked different. There was a tension in her body, as if the air around her bristled with untold burdens. My instinct was to run to her, grab her shoulders, and demand she tell me everything. But fear held me back. "What if she's changed? What if she hasn't?" Sophie said, her voice quiet but firm. "But she's been forced into a world she didn't want to be a part of, Alex. That doesn't mean you can't help her understand. She doesn't have to bear this alone. You just need to get through to her." I glanced back at Sophie, uncertainty clouding my gaze. What if I stepped back into that life only to unearth deeper chaos? What if everything was worse than I could have imagined? I can't go back to the way things were. My breath caught. "Not after everything." Sophie's hand squeezed mine as she leaned closer. "You're stronger than you think. But I'm not sure about Rebecca or whoever is pulling her strings now. Just promise me you'll stay focused. The kids need us to figure this out." Her determination tethered me back to a sense of purpose. I turned my gaze back to Rebecca, who had knelt beside me, brushing away stray hairs from her daughter's face. The love in her eyes was undeniable, yet sawed through by an undercurrent of worry. Gathering the fragile threads of courage, I nodded. They'll go. I have to speak with her, but I need you to be close by in case things go sideways. Always, she replied. Her voice steadied as we broke from our hiding place and headed toward Rebecca. I could feel the past seeping into every step I took, each footfall echoing memories and regrets. I could see the shadows of doubt reflected in the distance, waiting, watching. But ahead, beneath the afternoon sun, was a flicker of my future. Before I could step fully into that moment, the world erupted into chaos. A distant crash followed by a scream rang out, shattering the serenity of the park. The laughter that once filled the air was abruptly silenced, replaced by a jarring tension that enveloped the scene like a storm about to break. What was that? Sophie's voice trembled, her grip tightening around my arm. I don't know. But we have to. Before I could finish the thought, I watched as a group of unfamiliar figures emerged at the far end of the playground, heading straight for Rebecca and the kids. The sudden recognition of danger ripped through me like ice in my veins. Alex, please. Sophie's voice shook, laced with urgency. We have to move. They're here for her. They're going to. The growing realization crashed upon me, rushing forward like a tidal wave of fear. The path ahead was shrouded in uncertainty. Danger loomed tall, and I wasn't sure if I had the strength left to fight it. But one thing was clear. There would be no turning back. The choice had been made, and whatever shadows filled our past would collide head-on with the truth I had yet to uncover. And as I raced toward my family, my heart pounded with a single powerful thought. I could either run, or I could stand and guard them against whatever darkness was clawing its way into our lives. Rebecca, I shouted, a wild energy propelling me forward, breaking through the thickening chaos. The figures ahead moved with purpose, eyes scanning the crowd and honing in on her with an unsettling precision. I had to reach her before they did. In that moment, time felt suspended. I could see her features contorting with confusion, the protective instinct she had for our children igniting an urgency in her movements. Each step I took was a prayer that she'd instinctively gather the kids and run, but fear held her rooted, eyes flickering between me and the looming figures. Stay back, Sophie urged, positioning herself defensively between me and the approaching threat. We have to call for help. But deep down, I knew dialing a number was too slow. My heart raced, adrenaline pumping through my veins. When had it come to this? My life had spiraled into an unpredictable storm, and I needed to be the anchor that would prevent any of us from drifting into the void of danger. With renewed determination, I pushed forward. Rebecca, get the kids and run. I nodded toward Mia, Danny, and the rest, who stood caught in a web of blissful ignorance, unaware that their innocent playground was transmuting into a battlefield. That a sudden scream echoed from the distant edge of the park as Danny tripped. Time slowed as I watched his little body tumble, the soccer ball rolling away, spurring instinct into overdrive. No, Danny, get up, I shouted, my voice cracking, fear tethering me to the earth. But it was that moment of vulnerability that snapped Rebecca into action. The change swept over her. The protective mama bear clawed to the surface as she bolted forward, eyes ablaze with urgency. Mia, grab the ball and stay close. She yelled back, urgency fueling her words. As she gathered her children into her arms, I forged the distance between us, but the threat was fast approaching. The figures, now determined and relentless, drew closer, their motives veiled in shadows, ready to engulf our fragmented lives. Get out of here, I was yelling now, desperation spilling into my words like gasoline on fire. But each second melted away, each desperate breath amplifying the tension that coiled between grim determination and spiraling fear. Finally reaching Rebecca, I seized her arm, pulling her close. We have to leave. Right now? My voice was laced with an urgency that she seemed to finally understand, the light of clarity breaking through the fog of fear. Just then, I felt the first blow, a sharp pain in my side that drove me to my knees, a wild flourish of chaos erupting around us. No, Rebecca screamed, the moment forcing her to grapple with the harsh reality of the escalating danger. Sophie hurled herself toward the figures, her bravado piercing the veil of panic. I instinctively swung around to shield Rebecca and the kids, heart pounding. But even as fear gripped my heart, I felt an unfamiliar warmth blossom within, a deep-rooted motivation to protect what I held dear. Step away, I yelled, my voice breaking through the tumult. You don't want to do this. It was both a plea and a challenge. Their faces were hardened and resolute, and for a moment, I felt utterly small against the force of their certainty. One figure, a woman dressed in a stark leather jacket, stepped forward. "We're not here to hurt you yet." Her voice dripped with venom, the very words a warning that rang truer than any threat. "But if you don't cooperate, it will not end well for any of you." The gravity of her words slashed at me as panic clawed at the edges of my resolve. But amidst the raw urgency, there echoed a pang of remembrance. This was not just about confrontation anymore. This was about my family, my chance at redemption. I needed to find a way to diffuse the situation without letting fear dictate my actions. "Talk," I demanded, positioning myself as a shield between the assailants and my loved ones. "You've made your point. Let's ensure these kids are safe first. If you want something from us, you're going to have to cooperate." In that moment, I felt a flicker of something much stronger than fear. Perhaps there was even a glimpse of my own strength beneath layers of hurt and doubt. The woman laughed, a dark sound that echoed with an unsettling resonance. "Cooperate? I don't think you appreciate the trouble you've landed in. This is no longer just your decision, Alex. Welcome to your past." Panic surged again, but I forced myself to remain calm. "I don't care where I came from. I only care about their future. I want my children's safe point." One of the figures shifted, uncertainty breaking across their stoic expression. I seized my moment. Their facade of strength began to crack. "Do you really care about protecting them? Because right now, you've only created a culture of fear, one that isn't worth living in. These children are innocent. They deserve to be seen, not tangled in this web of chaos." "Easy for you to say since you've left once," the woman shot back, anger sparking in her tone. "Know this, you can't fix everything. And you can't erase your past. But I can face it," I replied, my voice ringing clearer, resonating in the stagnant tension. "And I can choose to move forward. I refuse to let this fear dictate the love I want to instill in my children." Her attitude faltered for a heartbeat, caught off guard by the sincerity in my tone. In that heartbeat, I saw a flicker of a conscience beyond the hardened surface. Perhaps she felt the ramifications of our choices blindingly evident in the innocent eyes surrounding us. Then, from the corner, I saw her, Maya. She had been standing watch. Her posture communicated the fierce loyalty that bonded us. "This isn't who you are," she called out, directing her words at the assailants, as if willing them to understand. "You don't have to let the past control you anymore. You can walk away." The unexpected support from her ignited a wave of courage within me. The collective pressure of the children's innocence entrenched my resolve deeper still. "I'm not running anymore," I declared, stepping forward, breaking down walls around uncertainty. "I'm standing against this and claiming what belongs to me. And it starts with protecting my family." Suddenly, a crackling energy hung in the air, the tension electrified. My voice rose again, rising to meet the challenge. "You might not be here to hurt them right now, but if you take anything else from us, I swear I'll make sure the people who care about these kids will rise to protect them." The shifting stance in the figures began to register as fear erased any pretense of calm. The shadows of the past whispered in their ears, and it was clear the past they pursued was crumbling away behind us. "Who's here for them?" "This is about trust," the woman hissed, trying to regain authority. "You can't take it back, none of you." And that's when the realization washed over me, like a calming wave through tumultuous waters. "No one ever gets to dictate our lives for us," I replied definitively, instinctively holding Rebecca closer as her grip tightened around Mia and Danny. "We can take our power back." And then, a small voice broke through the mass of turmoil, a sound so simple, yet profoundly resonant. "Dad," Danny whispered, his eyes wide as he stepped forward, joining our cluster, embodying one brave heart amid chaos. That simple word ignited something transformative within Mezek. Unwavering love poured from his depths into mine, illuminating the shadows swirling around. It was pure manifestation of strength, resilience, and everything worth fighting for. The woman faltered, eyes flickering back to Danny. "You've already lost once. You're nothing without your past. You have nothing." But in that moment, I could clearly see it. I had everything. My children, my love for them, my determination, every ounce with which I would protect them. "Try me," I said, my voice filled with assertiveness. "I will not let history repeat itself. I will not lose what is mine again, not now." not ever. The air shifted, the figures hesitating, uncertain as they felt the weight of collective determination swell around us, wrapping like a protective fortress. The sound of children's laughter erupted at the playground in loud bursts, a far more potent weapon than any confrontation we had faced. In the face of that, clarity flooded through me. If I was to heal these broken shards, I needed to stand firm against unrelenting forces. Walk away, I urged once more, my heart a steady drum calling them to see. Walk away while you still can. And just like that, I began to feel the palpable tremors of autonomy, surging forward, termites gnawing through the old structures, clearing space for the joy to flow. Maya stepped beside me, and together we formed a united front. She mirrored my resolve, simultaneously anchoring me while radiating determination of her own. Yet, the moment felt woven with suspicions as murmurs began circulating through the figures. After a tense beat, a transformation shifted in the temperature of the air, alive with potential. And slowly, reluctantly, the figures turned to retreat, vanishing into the shadows, the confrontation dissipating like morning mist. There was an unspoken acknowledgement of resilience that lingered in the air, battle averted for the time being, but one I could feel looming in the distance. As the dust settled, I felt myself sinking into the warmth of the connected moment, me family safely bundled within an embrace. Rebecca's eyes met mine, shimmering with realization, grief, and the flicker of hope. Slowly pulling me close, she whispered, "Alex, I never thought you'd come back. I thought I had to do it alone. I should have been there," I breathed, the weight of regret trailing through my voice. Yet even as shadows clung desperately to the outlines of our past, I forged forward, every word resonating with tenderness, a promise of a new beginning. But we have to be there for each other now. We can't dwell on what the past handed us. Maya, Danny exclaimed, a burst of hope bubbling forth. Can we play soccer again? With Jennifer hugging Emma, laughing across the field, I felt the flicker of resolve, a chance at starting something anew. Before I could respond, I felt a familiar warmth enveloping my side, Rebecca's hand curling around mine, determination twinkling in her eyes. "Yes," she said, her voice steady. "We can make this work." In that moment, I knew whatever shadows loomed on the horizon would take that leap together. And when the laughter of my children enveloped us again, I couldn't shake the word that escaped my lips, home. Because together, we would build an unshakable foundation, rooted in love, resilience, and the unwavering promise of safety for generations to come. As the sun dipped beyond the horizon, I felt the warmth of hope unfurling. Battle won. But the adventure leading toward a brighter tomorrow was only just beginning. My heart, wrapped in unity, echoed louder than any shadows of the past ever could, and through the laughter of my children, shining like gold amidst the dimming light, the final promise solidified: love would always be our true legacy.